Hey everyone, welcome back to the Retro Reef, and today I want to talk about collecting games and my experiences and give a little bit of advice based off of that. Also, comment below if you have any questions. I think on my next video I'm going to do a Q&A with game collecting or any questions you may have for me, so I will take some of those questions and go ahead and put a video together answering some of those that you guys have. Also, at the very end of the video, I'm going to show you how to save a little bit of cash if you go and buy games with these stickers back on the spine that we all hate that GameStop used to put on, and I'll show you how you might be able to get $10-15 off a game and get these stickers off looking fresh, clean, and like they were never there before. So first I want to talk about how expensive the game hobby and collecting really is. So I'm sure you've heard this from other collectors and their videos and their experiences, and if you're going through yourself, I'm sure you've seen the price hike. Especially in GameCube games, it's kind of ridiculous. But it's kind of what we all have to face reality if you're not looking to emulate or play them on PC, which is definitely a good alternative if you have that, but some people like myself like to have the physical edition and play it for that nostalgia factor. Either way, it's perfectly fine, and you just have to realize that the prices of games go up and down. I do believe GameCube eventually will start to go down, just like other systems have gone up surprisingly, and down over time. So I really think it's going to eventually go down, but in general, whether they go down a lot or not, gaming and collecting is just expensive. It's just the way it is, and if you're going to start off a collection, already have one, I'm sure you feel the pain, or just looking at the prices scares you. And I have some advice later on how to kind of get around some of that in terms of how to not make it feel like it's one big upfront cost at once. But the biggest thing to me is when I first started collecting a little bit, I used to go and hit flea markets, yard sales, stuff like that. And while you still can find those, and especially if you're looking online on forums, you'll definitely see that people have some crazy luck and experiences with it. Whether true or not, in all reality, that's most likely not going to be the case. You're usually spending a lot of time buying off of eBay, especially if you find someone you trust buying from in multiple stores, friends who don't game anymore, co-workers, and Facebook Marketplace I've actually had a little bit of success off of. So that's something I would definitely recommend. But the big thing for me is my local game store. So I have a local game store by me, and it's not a GameStop, but it's a retro video game store, and the prices are pretty competitive. Sometimes there's deals, sometimes a little more expensive, but it's a game store that I trust. I know if I go back and have an issue, they're gonna make it, worth my while. If there's something wrong with the disc, if I have an issue with the console, that's one way to go about it if you're fortunate to have a game store local to you. Because when you go on eBay and you're buying on Facebook Marketplace especially, I would say eBay is definitely a little more, those sellers are a little bit better than Facebook Marketplace. They can just write you off forever. But you're always buying something, risking it, right? Whether you're buying it from eBay, Facebook, a game store, it doesn't really matter. The point is you're going to be risking it when you buy it, right? Is it going to work? How long is it going to last? Is there any damage? And that's stuff you have to check for when you buy it. And there's a lot of videos out there for like fake cartridges and stuff like that. So if you're looking for N64, I definitely recommend looking for those Game Boy games, looking for like fake cartridges, because there's definitely a market out there where people go and make fake ones and sell them. So it's a little more difficult, but those are the places I would look, and you have to kind of find trusted people over time and have them. It's a lot, but definitely find that place, and that's why I like my local game store where I buy from. They're awesome. Huge shout out to them. And I've also had some success from friends. So I won't lie, a good portion early on when I started collecting was from my brothers. They just didn't want them anymore. First it started with me just taking care of them, and they're like, yeah, we don't want that anymore. So I started actually with a decent size, and I was very fortunate. But I've had friends and a few coworkers give me some stuff that they're like, hey, this is, it's been sitting on our attic, or, we don't really want it. We don't really care. And, a lot of those people, I try to be honest and say, hey, this is what I think it's worth, because they're friends, family, whatever. And they usually cut you a really good deal anyway, because they just want a little bit of cash for it and get out of it, and don't want it sitting in their basement anymore. So that's one way to look at it. But if you're going into collecting, you just have to keep in mind that it's just an expensive hobby besides those few unique situations, right? Where you have a friend, a coworker, you are fortunate to run into something at a thrift store or at a garage sale. But besides those instances, you're probably going to be paying market value, and it's just an expensive hobby, so you need to know that going in. The next thing I want to talk about is actually cleaning the consoles. So when you have a big collection, especially like this, it starts getting out of hand, you have to go and actually take care of the consoles, so you have to clean them. It doesn't mean you have to open them up constantly, but dusting them, making sure that, you know, the surfaces, the controllers, like over time, you just have a lot of stuff. And let's face it, you're not going to play everything all the time. There are going to be times where you go months without touching certain consoles. There's going to be times where you might go a week without, you know, or two without playing games at all. And there might be times where you're, you know, picking up the games constantly, all different consoles, all different games, you want to try stuff out, and that's totally okay, and that's normal. But most of the time the game is going to be sitting there, or the console's going to be sitting there, it's going to be collecting dust. And that's not a bad thing. You just need to, you know, keep up with it. So that's something to keep in mind, because if you're letting it sit there not taking care of it, then it's just going to make it harder to resell over time if there's an issue with it, or you know, you might have to open the console up and you've never done that before. So it's just something to try to keep in mind if you're going into it, or you know, you're just starting off. The other thing is space. So I have this room, so this is kind of like my office, and it's the only space I have, and it's full. So, and that's okay. But that's just something to keep in mind. You have to have space if you're going to collect. And you might think, okay, I have this little space and that's fine. It's perfectly fine, but you have to stay within your limits. And there have been times where, you know, I've had someone come and say, hey, I have a bunch of Xbox 360 games I don't want, and I definitely wanted them, and I didn't have the space for it. And I was like, look, I would love it, but I just can't. I just don't have the space for it. And it's something just to keep in mind, or else you're just going to have stacks and stacks of games, and you're not even going to touch them. They're going to sit there. And that's something you need to decide too, is that there's definitely different types of collecting. Some people just really enjoy collecting games, and that is totally fine. They don't play them. That's totally cool with it. But then there are other people who want to actually go and play, and they have a huge backlog, and there's some people mix, right? Some people just want a game. They know they probably won't get to it. Whatever your style is, that's fine. But you need to kind of determine, right, what kind of game collector you're going to be, right? What games you're going to go after. Are you going to go after Nintendo games, Sony games, Xbox games? Are you going to be playing all these games? Are you going to try to? Realistically, you're not going to get through every game you own. Here, a lot of the games I have played over the years, but if I were to start today, I would say there's no way I'm hitting through all these. And it's been a mixture of me. Let's say I went to buy a console, like when I bought a Wii, right? I went to go buy a Wii, and the guy had like 30 games with it, and had multiple duplicates I had, and he wanted it all sold as a lot. And that's fine. I really just wanted to have a CIB Wii, but the problem was the Wii I had was having some issues, so I just figured I'll just buy a new Wii and whatever. But it came with a bunch of games, and I didn't want the games. So then you either have to resell them or bring it into a game store, and you're not going to get as much if you sell them on your own. So it's just something to keep in mind, is space and determining what kind of collector you're going to be, right? And my advice going forward, and this is just off my experience, is collect the games that you really want and that you want to play. I went through a little bit of a phase where I was picking up games. I'm like, oh, I really want this game. It's worth, you know, it could be worth a lot of money, or I want this game because a lot of people are talking about it. They say it's a great game, but it had nothing to do with me wanting to play it. And I think for me, that's where I kind of started to fall down a little bit of a hole, and I'm happy it didn't last long, because I was sitting there and I was like, I'm not even playing these games. I have them for X, Y, and Z reason. The price isn't going up that much, or it went down a little bit, and it's just something you need to kind of make sure you're on track with, right? Because it's a really fun hobby. It's great to be able to pick up and play a game. Friends come over and they get nostalgia looking at stuff that they used to play as a kid. It's great, but it's something you definitely need to keep in mind, and something that, you know, my advice is go and get the games you really want to play, and get the games that will mean a lot to you, even if you just had them as a kid and you might only pick it up once or twice. That is definitely my recommendation. And as you go get those games that you really want, and you determine which games you want to get, just remember, a game collection, it doesn't matter how big or small. All that really matters is that you play the games, you enjoy the games, and you care about the games. So, well, you will see people with huge collections. I know I thought this was huge myself, what I had, and then I had people comment on my game room tour and say that they had over thousands of games in theirs, and that's great. It doesn't matter how big or small, and it only matters what games you get and what games matter to you. That is how you should determine your collection. Just get the ones that you enjoy, and that could be thousands, it could only be 10. So just keep that in mind and get the ones that you really care about. That's the most important thing. So now that you determine some of the games that you want, right, and you're thinking, okay, I want to collect, let's say, all the Mario Party games or Nintendo games, how are you going to track it, right? I've seen people do Excel sheets. I've seen people go and just, have a Microsoft Word document. Whatever you want to do is fine. I really love this app called GameEye, and I definitely recommend it. I think it's great. You can go through and add games to your collection that you have. You can put it in if it's just the disc, if it's loose, if you just have the manual, if you just have the box, if you have the complete copy. It's awesome. And you can create a wish list on there, it's great. So you can go and track and actually just add it right to your collection from the wish list. I really recommend this app. It's kind of helped me definitely realize, take a look, if there was a game I was iffy about getting, I'd put it in my wish list, and then I would buy other games over time that I wanted when a new game released, because currently my collection, I would say, is done. And what I mean by done is I'm really just focusing on newer games. There are maybe 1 or 2 Z retro games I might get, but I really have all the games I would want at this point. And my backlog is so big with a few that I really want to play that I'm either going to play new games, get new games, or if it's, I just find a really good value on something that was out of my reach before. Those are kind of the exceptions right now, but it's great having that wish list, because I would have new games on there and those games that I really want, and I would go and take a look and have an older game that I was iffy about in there, and I would say, you know what, it's been 2 months, it's been sitting in here, I've been playing these newer games, I don't really need this one, I don't really care that much, and I would just, get it off my wish list. And that's kind of my best approach with going and kind of determining, hey, these are the games I want, these are the games I want to focus on, and kind of just, be able to also keep control of being able to play the games that you really want to play at the same time. So, time is the biggest thing for us. There isn't enough time to play every game, we wish we could play. But this tracking app has helped me a lot. Just go and track the games I own. The pricing with them, although the pricing, in my opinion, isn't closest to the market compared to a price charting, the price charting website, but it's been really good to be able to go and just track to see what I have, see what I'm looking forward to, wish list. And you can also track games on their release date, so you can go and add them before their release, as long as they're in the system, or you can even put it in the system yourself, and then it'll go and warn you or give you a notification, hey, this game is coming out next week, or this game's coming out tomorrow, kind of as a reminder if you want. So I really, really encourage you to take a look at that app if you're looking for a way to track. Microsoft Excel's good. I just kept finding myself having to manually do it every time, and I didn't like that. And the price charting website, I definitely recommend price charting. I think if you're looking for something, prices and reselling and stuff like that, that is definitely the way to go. I was using price charting and GameEye at the same time, but in all reality, it's the same thing with Excel, where you have to go and manually put it in every time. At least when I was using it, there was no app. I don't know if there's an app for it now, but if you're looking, for quick to see what a game's going for price-wise, price charting is definitely the way to go. But yeah, that's how I would go and track games and work on backlogs and wish lists. All right, so I want to get into some of my biggest mistakes here, and I would say it's really 2 big things for me. When I was first doing this, like I said, it started kind of with nostalgia, and I had, games from my brothers come to me, bought a few games I wanted over time, and, I kind of talked over the video how it went to just liking to buy games, and now I just want to buy games I want to play, right? So my biggest mistake going in was, the first one was, I was very, very big on, hey, this game might blow up, or this game is worth this much, it's only going to go up. And there's definitely some games that I've lost out money with that. And I would say it's probably netted with games I've made money off of and resold or have, and the value's still high. But I wouldn't worry about that, and that's my opinion. And it kind of goes back to get the games you really want, right? Because if you want a game really, really bad, the price isn't going to matter, as long as, obviously, it's within your well-being and reach. You have to keep that in mind, and that's your own, personal situation. But if you keep that in mind, and you look and you really want a game, grab it. That's what I would do, because that's going to mean more to you, and the value to that is going to mean more to you than any price going up or down. Now, there are definitely a lot of resellers out there, and while I think it's frustrating for game collectors at time with resellers, right, because they're in it to make money, and if that's what you're looking to do, that's totally fine. But I know some people get frustrated with it. But the good part about them is you know, a lot of them are very, very good with going through and showing you pictures of, you know, and tell you about the quality of it. And you can kind of make your determination there is where you can go and, you know, determine, hey, do I really want this game? Is it really worth this much money? Or, hey, do I really want to pick this game up for the quality of it? You know, does it have the manual? Does it have this? And they're usually pretty good with sending pictures and reliable for not having fake copies. So I think, like I said, my biggest mistake early on was taking a look at the prices and focusing on that more than actually what I wanted to play. And the second big thing I would say, and the biggest mistake I had, was not, you know, determining if I wanted stuff complete in box. For anyone who doesn't know, that is having the game with it, the manual if there is one, because a lot of games don't have manuals nowadays, and then the box. So, for example, my biggest thing is the N64 is one of my favorite consoles, and I love having the boxes for them. I know it's cardboard, I know it means nothing, I totally get it, but there's just this nostalgia factor for me that I absolutely love about it. And I bought a lot of loose games up front for it because I just love the console. And going back, as I started realizing, hey, I really want to collect video games, my biggest regret was I bought a bunch of loose ones, because back in, I don't want to say back in the day, but even, I would say a little bit before the pandemic in 2020, so like 2019, 18, and before that, you could always typically find, you might have to wait a little bit for certain games, but you could find just a box only on eBay, or you could find the manual only on eBay. And while you still can find that today, most people are looking to sell you a complete copy or loose only, or whatever they have, right? But people are more aware of the prices, so you can't just get a box cheap anymore. You can't just get a manual cheap. Everything has a price to it, and everyone wants their fair share of whatever that's worth, which makes sense. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think it was easier back then to buy stuff individually. So going back to my regret is I bought a lot of loose N64 games, and I was like, hey, I want to complete this, and there aren't a lot of options anymore unless you're sitting around waiting and stalking eBay, and you get lucky and you find a box of manual. Sometimes you might not ever find it, so you have to rebuy the game and then you have to resell it. So I would say that's my biggest mistake, because I found myself in a pickle with a few games where I was like, I just have to buy it, and then I would go and sell my loose copy, or I would swap them and sell the other loose copy. So definitely determine what kind of games you want to collect, right? Let's say you want to collect GameCube. Do you want the boxes? Do you want the disc only? Do you want the manual included? And that's something I would really think hard about before you go and do it, because you don't want to have to go back and rebuy everything. But you also, at the same time, don't want to buy a bunch of CIB games that are just so expensive, right? That, you know, you're pushing yourself, or you're just, you know, buying something that really you don't need. So you need to determine what's best for you, and those are kind of my biggest mistakes, and I would just, you know, do what you want to do at the end of the day. So like I said, next video I'm going to have a Q&A and answer any questions you guys have about maybe games that I have, game collecting in general. If there's anything I didn't answer today, which is probably a lot because I just rambled a little bit, I apologize. But feel free, I'm going to pin a comment below, ask whatever questions you want, and whether it's 2 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, I'm going to take the time to answer all the questions you have before I release that next video. I have been posting like every week to 2 weeks, so that gives you a little bit of time to go and ask questions if you're just seeing this video now. So definitely leave those questions below in the pinned comment, and I'll answer those next. But I also want to thank you guys for sticking around. Like I said at the end, which is now, I'm going to show you how to go and remove this sticker off the back and save a few bucks here. So as I was going to show you this, I was like going to demonstrate that the sticker was on there, and it came literally right off. I've never been so lucky in my life. So I have another game to show you. Alright, so what I have for you guys is SSX3, and I saved a few dollars on this. So why I'm saying is you could save some money on this is because a lot of people and collectors don't like having the stickers on the spine, this terrible thing that GameStop used to do. But if you invest in a little bit of Goo Gone here, you can actually get the stickers off. So a lot of sellers will go and sell you at $5, $10 cheaper depending on the game price, just to, because it has a sticker on the spine, they can't sell it. So what you're going to do is just need Q-tips and the Goo Gone. And what you're going to do is, you can see it here, you just get the Q-tip and you dab it in there a few times. And you want it nice and wet, and you're going to go and just rub it against the sticker on the spine, and you want it like pretty decently wet. I usually do like 2 coats of it, and what you'll do is you'll rub it on the back here pretty consistently, and you can start to see the color go through it a little bit of the actual like art style. So if you go and just rub it and you do 2 passings, all you have to do is wait 15 minutes. So you could see here I'm just rubbing very gently on it and just making sure the Goo Gone's on it, and you could see some of the orange appear on the big symbol in the back. So you can start to see through it, and what this does is take the adhesive off. Now I will warn you that as you go to do this, that there's always a risk factor that you're going to rip the sticker off. So yes, while you're saving some money here, it's definitely a risk. But what I did here was put, 1 coat over it. I'm going to dab a 2nd coat on it next. And, hopefully it comes off and it's worth a couple dollar savings. And like I said, the warning, I did have one that ripped the sticker off and I wasn't gentle enough doing it. And some with multiple stickers on the back, like EB Games, GameStop, they used to just put sticker on sticker on sticker whenever the price changed. So, definitely do this at your own risk. But for me, I've been pretty lucky with it, and I saved a decent amount of money getting games a few dollars cheaper. And what you want to do is, after you have it here, you want it to rest like that for about 15 minutes, and you want it on the side, just like this. And the reason you want it on the side is because the Goo Gone will actually drip down it if you have the artwork flat. So just leave it like this and on the side, and it'll just drip right onto the paper towel. I haven't had any problems doing that. So as you can see here, the Goo Gone, you can feel it, and it's going to feel a lot softer. You can feel the adhesive gone. You're going to go for a corner, and you're going to slightly, very, very slightly peel it, just a little bit like that. I like to peel it a little bit at a time, and you can feel how easy it is to rip. So you want to be slow, and this is crucial. You want to be as slow as possible ripping this off, because there will be a little bit of adhesive on there still. So the slower you are, the easier and safer and gentle it's going to be, and the more likely you're not going to rip any artwork off underneath. So as you can see, I'm still doing this, and there's been times where I've gone and I hit like the middle up and I realize, hey, there's a lot of adhesive on here. So you can just put it down, put a little bit more Goo Gone, let it sit 5-10 more minutes, and then do it again. But you can see it's ripping right off beautifully here, and I'm just slightly going a little bit at a time. And that's the key, and that is what helps with me the most, is just going a little bit at a time. And you can see we're almost at the end here, so it's coming off gently, and there we go. So there's the sticker, and you can see it's off, and I, throw that sucker away, but look how beautiful that looks. It's like you bought it brand new, and that's how you save a few dollars. So after this, you just wipe it off, just make sure there's no other Goo Gone, and the big thing here is you want to wait for it to dry, and I'll show you in a second the inside where you can actually see some of the Goo Gone. But if you wait sometimes 20 minutes, another 20-30 minutes, you can see it's gone. So what I like to do is I actually like to get 3 or 4 of these and do it at a time, because if you do one, you could start another one while you're waiting for the other to dry. You just set timers, and you can see back there, that's where it needs to dry. But you can, let the other one sit out to dry once it's done while you're waiting to peel another one off, and this is the finished product. So that's a quick way, guys, to go and save a few dollars, and I hope it works out with you. And remember, there is a risk factor to this, but I've had great luck with it, so definitely take advantage of it if you trust yourself with this. So without further ado, thanks for watching, guys. Hope this helps.